Hi all, welcome to the first Zillion webinar. Today we'll be talking about how to become a Microsoft Teams expert, plus learning to work from home effectively. Thank you all for joining us today, and I will run you through the agenda very quickly before handing it over to a Microsoft expert to talk more about Teams. So taking today's current situation into account, where most of us are stuck working from home, a lot of customers have been asking us, how do you effectively work from home? What are the best practices to work from home? Because it is a little bit of a shift for the most of us. So we thought we'll be covering three main topics today, and we don't want to make this too long. We will probably be keeping it to under 30 minutes. And the three main areas we'll be covering are 2 weeks in, what have we learned about working remotely? Then we'll have a short demo on Microsoft Teams and how you can stay productive on it. Will be done by Kunal. And then towards the end of the webinar, I will give you offers and let you know about how you can work from home remotely too using Microsoft Teams and how Zillion along with Microsoft can help you on that. So Kunal, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sujan. Hello, everyone. My name is Kunal, and I'm a senior architect with Microsoft, one commercial partner team. Today, we're going to talk about scenarios on how you can actually use Teams and what we've learned so far on working from home for Microsoft Teams. So let's get started. So in today's world and in today's scenario, what we're seeing as a global health emergency, we're seeing lots and lots of organizations where are pivoting right now to working from home to make sure that their employee safety and community safety and customer safety is of utmost importance. We as Microsoft, and our partners like ZILLIONe are actually committed to make sure that the public health is actually our first priority, and we're doing all that we can to make sure that this is all done without impacting the productivity of the organization. So today we will go through what are the best practices that we've learned on seeing the organizations working from home, and how you as an employee or as a company or as a manager can actually add more value to work from home in a better way. So let's get started. There are these are the kind of factors that actually demand an immediate and spontaneous and unplanned change in the way people are working, whether that's working from home, whether that's working from a remote office, whether that's working from a cafe or something like that. Companies want that their projects should be ongoing. The processes that they have been followed and are in continuous improvement to make sure that the users are not feeling impacted by slowing down of business productivity. Everything that the organizations want to do in this unplanned change is to make sure that their people are not feeling remote and are not slowing down because of the productivity, because of the work from home change trend that is happening because of this entire health scare that we are in right now. So let's look at how Microsoft Teams actually come into picture. Now, I'm assuming everyone who's joining it by now understands what Microsoft Teams is, but just to give you a brief overview of what Microsoft Teams is and what Microsoft Teams brings to the table. So Teams is basically a hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. Now, whether that's a persistent chat, it gives you a number of ways through which you can actually collaborate, communicate on different platforms, on different devices, but it can also give you that, a single experience across multiple devices, whether that's collaborating through a persistent or a group chat, which is your IM and presence, whether that is, having online meetings, and we'll be covering what content of meetings are we talking about, or whether that's through the enterprise calling and voice that provides you with the PSTN functionality inside Microsoft Teams, or whether that is extending the platform capability of Microsoft, how Microsoft can now be used as a platform, or is actually a platform that you can leverage on to bring in your line of business application into Microsoft Teams, or to bring in your line of business or your existing applications that you use into your day-to-day activity. all of this is actually powered by the enterprise grade security that actually comes built into Microsoft Teams and in Office 365 or M365 as well. So let's look at this. I mean, just a general disclaimer: there's no official guidance from Microsoft, but these are just the collection of ideas from Microsoft employees and from Microsoft together to make sure that you have a better understanding of how you can actually remotely, work from home and work from a remote location. Let's look at the simple steps that we've seen in the past that organizations are actually. Now, the organizations are following, communications across, across these four different pillars that we call to work effectively from a remote location. First is so that your employees, your environment are actually ready by using Microsoft Teams as a productivity tool. Now, that productivity tool, as I said, is a hub for teamwork. Imagine Microsoft Teams as being the window on top of Teams' entire Office 365 stack of applications, plus a lot of other things coming in. So first step is always to make sure that you're having those conversations, you have ample training materials, ample, deployment and ample assessments of your network to make sure that you're going to leverage onto this. So that readiness is something that we've seen organizations that have planned for remote work in different scenarios do that. Then comes the communication portion of it. How do you communicate remote work guidance to your employees? What are the specific tools that you're using to do that? And what is Microsoft providing you on top of that? We'll be covering that as well. And then, of course, training and change management. Change management is pretty much how you actually use to change the way you work in your day-to-day activity. And we'll be covering that as we speak. So things to consider when you're working from home. When you're working from home, you're looking to set up your workspace, first of all. You need to have a proper workspace in mind. You need to stay connected to each other, and you need to make sure that you're maintaining your time and your well-being together in this scenario. So when we talk about physical workspace, every one of us may have a specific workspace that we've been accustomed to in the office. Now, when it comes to working from a remote location, it's always good to find a safe space to work. Good ventilation, proper lighting, make sure that this is the right space for you to work. Make sure that if you have kids at home or if you have your family at home, and if you're working with your wife, your husband, your wife, anyone across with your in your home, make sure that you are in a proper distance. There is not much space constraints out of it. And then, of course, your equipments and materials. Equipments being your headsets, your cameras, your laptops, your extra screens, and stuff like that. Then one of the common questions asked is that what is Microsoft, provide us with, what should be the internet at home and what should be the speed or connectivity at home. So these are some of the recommendations that we've seen, that we can follow. First, of course, connect via the Ethernet to your home router. Depending on which country, which internet provider you are, it's always good to have a wired connection to your laptop. That really increases because you never know who's, if you're sharing a home router, you'll have your kids, your wife, your husbands, all streaming in through that. So make sure you have a connected wired Ethernet connection to your laptop. The wireless speed is all there, and there are other discussions as well that have been highlighted, especially point 3, which is to limit the use of Netflix, YouTube, and Xbox Live if you're a gaming freak. So make sure that these points are taken into consideration when it comes to network. From a quality of experience perspective, it's always good to use Teams certified headset, like the one that I'm using, and the one that that are provided on this hyperlink that you can actually go to. Teams certified headsets have gone through a rigorous testing to make sure that they can be actually used at any from any device in any location. So always use that. Then you always have the good the good headset. Any non-certified USB headset will be giving you good quality, but not the best one. And then of course the rest of the ones you can see. If you're using a laptop mic, I would strongly suggest you to change that behavior and use a certified headset to start working on Microsoft Teams. And then, of course, you have different ways in which you can actually make a test call to actually check how your devices are doing. Whether that's through a test call that you can make through the search window on the or the search bar on the top of the Teams client, or whether that is through the whether that's through the status that I'll show. The review, the test, everything comes in, which kinds of gives you the right picture as to what's happening, whether your network is connected, whether your camera is right, whether your speaker or microphone is right or wrong. So they'll provide you with all the review and the results that will help you to adjust as and when it is required. All right. So now let's take a look at how you can actually communicate using Microsoft Teams. Now, whether that's there are many ways to stay connected. Whether that is, you can have a Teams channel just for a conversation, just for laugh purposes. You can make space for fun. You can try using, making sure everyone is engaged in the audience. Everyone in your virtual team is always okay. People who like to talk a lot within the organization, who really like to have, conversations over a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or, something like that. Make sure that you're having those conversations with your employees over chat. That's the right way to get connected. You need to remind yourself that you're checking in with your people regularly so that they don't feel left behind and you also feel engaged with them. Now, these are some of the links that we mentioned. So we'll be sharing the slide deck towards the end. After this session, we'll be sharing the slide deck with you guys. But it's probably just to make sure that you're communicating and collaborating together. So we'll be showing all of this in a demo, but I just wanted you to have an idea of how you can actually collaborate, whether it's co-authoring together, having ideas together, real-time authoring. If you need to brainstorm, you always have an option to use Whiteboard to brainstorm. You can switch to digital events, just like this one that we are having, a live event where ZILLIONe and Microsoft. So I'm based in Singapore. ZILLIONe is working from home because every one of the employee in Sri Lanka, because of the curfew, they are all working from home. Then you can also have a virtual huddle where you can actually have a quick meeting, make sure that you have the right audience together, assign tasks to each other, and just start following up on those tasks as well. So inclusive online meetings is, again, one of the important things that we've been working on. Just make sure that you're actually having a video conversation. Like if you see at the back end right now, I have a Microsoft background. You can start off with a custom background as well once it is available in your tenant. But you can start the video with blur and start working on and make sure that the surroundings that you have are not presented in the way that they should be. So that's one thing that you should always be considerate about. Pause and keep yourself on mute in case you are in a rough zone. Make sure that you're monitoring the chat as well as we are right now, in case you have any questions and answers. In case there is an option for you to turn on live captions, you can do that as well. You have the option to turn on the live captions to see whatever we are presenting in your described language that you can support on. You need to make sure that the content is accessible. You don't know, where this is actually going and how you can make it more accessible. And of course, in case there are any other things that you want to make easier, you can always use the Windows 10 Ease of Access Center to make sure that you can change the font size, you can distinguish colors, and use all the Windows 10 features to make sure that your message is actually reaching out to the entire audience, irrespective of their accessibility status. So again, these are common best practices. I'm sure we are in a different world right now, and we are not used to doing this. But I think it's always good to change and to let people know on what your status is. So always make sure this as a habit to update your status as and when you're working from home, or you're working from office, or you're working, or you're away for a lunch break or something like that. Make sure that if you want to reach out to someone, use the @mention so that that person gets notified and gets the activity feed about it. And then, of course, you can always switch off from work as and when you want to. You really need to set those boundaries and make sure that working from home is not hampering your work-life balance. So you need to have that in control as well. Now, what can be the role of a manager? Now, many of you in this scenario will be, in a role of a manager or, an executive who can actually, make sure that they can, lead by example and improve some of the work habits in the organization. Make sure that you're enforcing, inclusion. Make sure you're having a positive impact of how you're trying to increase the adoption of remote work in your organization. Make sure you're having a one-to-one conversation. You're coaching the people to understand that any business continuity concerns of your team and support is going to happen now remotely. So everyone needs to support their team remotely. And how you can achieve that, what is the framework behind of your organization that you can lead that up to? So all of that is required. All of that is part of how you can actually, make sure that you as a manager can reach out to your organization as well. So now let's take a look at what you can do with Microsoft Teams in a small demo, and I can then continue with the slide deck. So I'll just quickly go ahead and show you what, from a Microsoft Teams standpoint perspective, you guys can do. So now in this segment or in this scenario, we do have multiple teams that we've been part of, or you as an organization have. Now, in our scenario, we will be focusing on few teams just from a demo perspective. First one, of course, will be to understand how we can introduce third-party applications. So now everyone who's used Teams knows that we have third-party applications that are part of our app store. These third-party applications, we've kind of segregated that based on their functionalities, based on their features that they are catering to. And you can also upload a custom application if you've built onto that. For more information around how you need to upload a custom application, reach out to ZILLIONe, reach out to your partner so that they can help you upload your custom application into Microsoft Teams. You also have an ability to actually embed your application on the sidebar. Supposedly, Trello is one of my personal applications that I use to schedule my work, to schedule and set reminders on what I've been doing. I have an option to actually schedule, and I have an option to actually see what are the cards that have been assigned to me or what are the tasks that have been assigned to me. And I also have an option to actually see the entire team boards that have been used by the application. So in this specific scenario, you can see these are the tasks that have been assigned to me. If I look at the team boards that have been used in my organization, I will have access to all the team boards that have been that I can see in the organization. Now, if I go into click onto any of this team board, it actually opens up the team and the channel which I'm part of, and opens up the entire Trello application embedded as a tab onto Microsoft Teams. Now, this is exactly how you would see on your web browser, on your phone, on your mobile device, or on your personal device. You have options to actually provide information. You have options to actually change labels, set due dates, and everything else around on this. And all of that gets updated into your, onto the Trello application, no matter which device you access it from. So all of that is available. Imagine this as being your line of business application. Now, lots of times there are organizations who still use legacy on-premise applications. Now, I'll take an example of that from an on-premise application perspective and show you, something like an existing SharePoint or an existing website that we've actually embedded into Microsoft Teams. Now, this is generally used, or this example is pretty much more on the hiring industry or HR industry. And probably one of the things that you can actually highlight is how you can actually move the entire website onto Microsoft Teams. Now, this place right here is actually a tab in which you can bring the entire application into life. Now, this is like a canvas board. You can draw anything and bring in any information about your existing application into Microsoft Teams. And you can also make real-time changes over here, which gets replicated to the database that is behind the scenes. So in this scenario, we are leveraging on SharePoint, traditional SharePoint site, which most of the millennials are not comfortable find it attractive enough to use that, or they don't want it, to hop in between applications. So how can you use that? How can you make sure that you can actually add or embed them into the application? One option to actually embed your application is through using it as a tab. The second option is, of course, to use that as a message extension. Now imagine if you're talking to someone in a hiring conversation with a hiring manager who wants to know something about a certain candidate. Wouldn't it be easy that instead of going to the SharePoint application, copy pasting the data, bringing it on inside of your collaboration tool, pasting it, and then sending out information in a very different format, in just a generic stuff that, a basic information. Wouldn't it be easy if you have something like this where you can actually call your application, which is now kind of in a bot, and provide information in a real-time basis to your hiring manager or to your hiring team? So consider this as part of your ticketing system as well. You can set this up, and we have, and I'll be covering that in the later half, on how you can actually set up ticketing system or, bots that can actually provide a human touch as well. So supposedly in this scenario, the hiring manager quickly asked me, hey, can you provide me with the status of Scotty? So all I can do is I can just click on this, and I can just provide and send him this, information in a form of an adaptive card that brings about, all the information that is required and everything else that comes in with the action buttons as well. The manager will actually have an option to, schedule an interview, provide feedback, or leave a comment right here. And, this candidate is passed, and I am ready to, send the candidate over. The information will be actually submitted in real time to the database as well at the back end, so that everyone involved gets the information, right? The other thing that I also wanted to bring to your notice, and where you're actually using applications, is the ability to actually have discussions with people from a different language. You get an inbuilt option within a specific message to actually translate and get the message in your native language, whatever you've said. So in my precedence, I have English as the native language. As soon as I click on translate, the entire content that was, that was published in a Greek language comes out to be in English immediately. I also have an option to actually go in and have an immersive reader read out the message to me in case I'm away from my system or have accessibility, challenges as well. I also have an option to actually click on more actions, and you can, for demo purposes, I included that as a poll, because that is the one thing that people ask, that, hey, I'm part of a team and we want to make sure that we finalized on an option. Can I create a poll inside Microsoft Teams? Yes, you can. All you need to do is embed that as an action item, and it will open up forms where you can actually create a live poll within your organization. Whether it is, question can be, where do you want to go for lunch? You can use that, either it is through, the Mahila Jayawardhane's restaurant, either it's the Ministry of Crab, or it is to, maybe something nearby, maybe some other option, maybe near Cinnamon Grand or something like that. That's a hotel where I stayed. So, so yeah. So you can choose all of this. You can have multiple answers if you want. You can add an option as well. You can make sure that these live polls can actually go in, as and when that you require. All it requires is to you to send this and submit your word. As soon as you send the application, the entire team who's part of this this specific team or this specific channel gets a notification and gets a live voting privilege as to what they can do. The other thing that people generally ask is about co-authoring, as to, hey, I have a Word document. I need to make sure there is enough content available for me to make sure that I can edit the document. I can provide comments. I can have a conversation live within the same chat message. How can I do that? So you have the option actually when you're working, you have the option to actually have a comment or a conversation as well within the same document. So comments can be something separate that you can actually, provide that, hey, this picture is not correct. So I definitely have an option to review or to add a comment, track changes as to what's happening in the document for everyone or just for me. And all of those conversations is available for you. Apart from that, you're working from home, so you will have options of seeing the entire conversation right here. And you can always tell them, hey, I just updated my stuff. I just updated my response, my task, uh, ready for the rest. So as and when you update all of this, these are real-time collaboration that you're working on with the same document open across multiple people while they are working remotely. So gives you that ability to actually come in and have a conversation remotely. Again, these are just not the only things that you can work on. If there is a Power BI dashboard that you're working on from a reporting standpoint perspective, you want to see real-time impact of how Power BI data is actually embedded, you can actually use the tabs to get the entire live Power BI data inside of Microsoft Teams, and you will get an ability to actually either drill down or get more information about what you're doing inside a Power BI dashboard. Supposedly, I want to know more about the sales by country. So I just click on the tab inside the Power BI dashboard, and it brings me to that option of what's happening from a sales by per country basis. I have options to actually choose the Asia Pacific region and see the content based on the specific region as well. And everything happens or everything changes from a real time perspective in the same dashboard without even actually having to go into the Power BI dashboard. Now, whether that's a project plan that you have, whether that's a task scheduler, whether that's a Trello or a third party application, all of that has been provided for you to make changes and assign tasks that you would do in any tool, all embedded within one single application is what the value of Microsoft Teams is. Now, we showed you how you can actually test your demo calls, make sure that you have actually devices. So here is how you can actually make a test call. This is again a demo tenant, so I don't have an audio embedded into this Teams, but generally this is how you would perform that. You've all the capabilities of how you want the calls and what you want to present in your Teams mode. If you want a dark mode, how should it look like? What are the privacy perspectives that you would want to be a part of? Do you want people to, let people know when you've seen their message and when they've seen their messages? So all of that is, now going to be used. We'll be seeing a lot of surge in these small features, which actually make a huge difference when you're working remotely. Right. So this was in a nutshell of what I wanted to share. And yes, of course, meetings. Right. Not many people are aware, and everyone will come time and again and ask me, "Hey, I want to make sure that I organize a meeting within my team, and the recording gets updated within that same team as well." So what you can do in this scenario is you can use this small button within a specific team, organize a meeting. You can schedule a meeting at a specific task, make it recurring, invite right all the people, and then make sure that once you're setting it up and once you're recording the team, everything gets posted within the same team as well. And once you go into Microsoft Stream to actually access your meeting, the AI aspect of Microsoft Teams brings together both the capability to search by name, search by a specific keyword that people have actually spoken on, and the video immediately starts playing from there. So that's pretty cool in case you're missing on this session, and in case we are recording all of this, we share it with you, and supposedly we are all part of one organization. You can do that in the stream right now as well, and it's available by once it is enabled by your hiring manager or by your IT team. Then the other thing that I wanted to also talk about was the other way in which you can schedule, right? You have an option to, schedule a meeting here. I'm not going to go here because everyone knows how to set up, but I think this is what I wanted to share. Now you're reaching out, you're working remotely, you're reaching out to a lot of audience. There will be limitations of 250 users in some of the meetings, but there will be a limitation of maybe 700 or 1000 or maybe 2000 users coming in and joining a meeting together. So that is where you have Microsoft Live events that are actually that are used in this specific scenario. Now this live event gives you an ability to actually reach out to 10,000 people in a single meeting. And right now, if we are having a conversation, I become the presenter. We have Udi or Udesh from Zillion, who's actually the moderator, who's actually taking care of how the producer, how the presenters are stacked, how Sujan can present, or what should be visible when Sujan is presenting and when I'm presenting. So his job is of a producer. My job will be of a presenter, and your job will be of as an attendee. Now we will have different stakeholders who will be managing the Q&A, like Anchuka from Zillion, like Duleep from Zillion. They are moderators who are helping us with your Q&A as well. So all of that stuff you can define, for testing. I will just use anything, and I'll just show you the next status. You have an option to actually invite a specific group inside your organization. Now, this can either be a product group or a marketing group, or maybe a specific organization that you want to come in. You can add that. You can add a specific group as well here. Like just you want to have a new product launch and you just want the product team to come in, but your product team is more than 250. So how do you bring them in together? So you can have a live event with them and showcase the product, the details of your product. If you want to have an organization wide, only you can use this. If you want to have a public event, this is not enabled in the demo tenant for now, but in your tenant, you can enable that very easily in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center and organize a public event as well, just like what Zillion is doing right now, which is a public event. You also have options to, have captions, which needs to be set up in preview. You have an options of setting up a Q&A or an attendee engagement report where we get to know who are the attendees and how they joined in. And if I am a CIO or a CEO and have a big external production cameras, I can use those external app or device as well to schedule these meetings. Again, for support perspective, you can have a support URL if you're organizing this. So this is something really cool and is being used very heavily right now by most of the organizations that we've seen them to. Then again, the activity node, if you're having an app mention, it gets it gets all of these things get informed here. And also, if you have personal bots that have been assigned to you, like this is the SharePoint application. Now I can easily, as a hiring manager or as a hiring associate, I can easily know what tasks have been assigned to me. Now, when you look at a ticketing system, when you're looking at a help desk system, when you're looking at a remote management system, if you can have all that information assigned to you and you can have a single window where you can see what has been assigned to you, what's the status of the things that have been assigned to you, I think it makes a lot of difference in the remote productivity of an organization. So there are ample number of scenarios, but keeping time into consideration, I'll just take a pause here and move back to my slides to have a conversation around it. Now, again, these are all the things that are available for you as well to leverage on your team's clients if you have. We'll be talking about how Microsoft and Zillion are actually supporting on how you can actually run teams if you are not having that, or how you can actually enhance your team's workload to make sure that you're using Microsoft Teams in the right way. So let's look back at some of the common examples that we've seen. So remember to be mindful of how you're working. Don't forget to take breaks. This is very important. For the past few weeks, for the past few days, we've been asked in Microsoft Singapore to be working from home. And there are some people as well who are actually finding it within our partner ecosystem, within our customer ecosystem, who are finding it very hard to maintain that work-life balance. So make sure you're having those work-life balance discussions with your support options, with your organization people, to find out what is the balance that you can do to maintain that. I mean, it's not necessary for you to wake up, every day at 7 o'clock, because now your transit time, which may be 45 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the traffic that you guys were, that has gone. So that gives you an extra 1 hour to sleep. So maybe have those key things in mind when you're working remotely and how you can help. So start using Teams to change the way you work, and I think we've been emphasizing that a lot. Whether that is if there were a lot of in-person meetings that you were a part of, make sure that now you're having virtual meetings. Make sure your video is on. Make sure you have background blur in your meeting so that people don't see what's behind you. Make sure that there are any in-person trainings that you were conducting. How can you conduct that as a virtual webinar? If it's up to 250 users, how you can actually create that? Then how you can actually leverage or scale it up to 10,000 users using live events. And then, of course, how you can actually use applications like Company Communicator, applications like, FAQ Plus Bot that have been created and provided with the code to you, to both customers and partners to leverage on. Now, Company Communicator in my scenario is an app that gives you an ability to reach out and provide digital and remote support to your organization employees. You can send targeted communication. It can be used as well when you're rolling out teams in your organization, that you can send out targeted communication that, hey, week one, this is the status of teams that we've done so far in your organization, in our organization, and this is what we plan for the next week. You can also use this as communication to the entire organization about certain events that you're hosting remotely. How to enable this, how you can do that. We have self-service portal and also our partner Zillion, who's capable enough to actually install that and help you, increase adoption of Microsoft Teams as well within your organization. Now, this is something that I really like, the FAQ Plus bot. Now, this bot actually gives you the ability to actually bring in a human touch in a friendly Q&A bot. Now, how these bots work, how you can actually, use the action buttons that have been designed in these bots to make it more conversational and to get the right, right resource to come in and help you. So FQ Plus bot is used in this scenario. Now, if your organization has specific questions, you can always have an option to ask an expert, get those questions answered and have a conversation, to have a private chat or a private phone call or schedule a time with that specific expert within your organization. Now, the sample code of this, how it is used, how it is installed with the architecture is all available for you on GitHub. The links will be shared with you on how you can download and use that in your application. Utilize the partner ecosystem to actually deploy that in your organization as well, so that it is deployed in a right way and you understand the entire architecture behind the scenes to make sure that you can have your own FAQs as well added into this for your specific organization. And lastly, I wanted to share about the crisis communication app. Now, this is a free application based on the world that we are living in, right? We've seen lots and lots of changes happening. And we found that in any crisis situation, the number one priority for any organization is to make sure that they are coordinating with their workforces. They are coordinating and they are able to send information to their workforces. How you can use this application is in two different instances. One becomes the crisis communication admin team, which is where a specific admin who's managing your crisis communication within your organization. Now, what are the few things that specific admin requires? He wants to have one single application where he can send out all information, whether that's company news, whether that's events or news from your government around the current status, right? Whether it's WHO on what's the current scenario of the disease outbreak that has been happening in the world right now. What are the helpful FAQs? What are the links? What are the company emergency contact information? So as an admin, I would need all of that. right? I would need one information where I can also see what are the requests that my employees are making to me. Now, all of that is available through this crisis communication app. Now, this is an open source Power App based template that is again leverage that you guys can leverage on. Again, you can start deploying it within your organization. You can leverage onto the partner ecosystem to do that as well. As an employee, what I will see if my company rolls this out is the screen where I'll get an a bit of where I'll get an option to actually share my status, where I'm working from, what is the range where I'm working from home. I'll get one single window where I see all emergency locations. If I have an option to actually make a request, I can actually, highlight that, hey, building one, floor three, there has been, an accident. I would like to report. Can you send in this? So all of that from an emergency response perspective can be done. It's not just about, a specific, as we mentioned before. It's more about how you're tackling with the environmental change and with the emergency changes that are happening in the world that we live in. Now, this is built truly by it's an open source application. It's fully customizable as well. If you are geeks on Power Apps and if you really want to customize all of that, and if you want to use that in factory, in your manufacturing unit, in your organization, you're more than welcome to use that and customize it based on your scenario. All right. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Sujan to actually talk about how ZILLIONe and Microsoft are helping us to have a conversation around this. And then let us know if you have any further questions. So we'll be available for Q&A as well. Over to you, Sujan.
Thank you, Kunal. So thank you very much again, Kunal, for those detailed and informative demo on Teams, and not only that, on really sharing experiences on working from home. I think it's something that most of us will really appreciate, especially because it's something that most of us are new to as well. So hi again, everyone. Let me move on to the exciting part for some of you guys, as how ZILLIONe and Microsoft can help you work from home using Teams. Now, you have seen everything that you can do using Teams, and you've seen the best practices of working from home. Now, let's talk a little bit about how we can help you do this. So for those of you who already have Teams and you already have 150 plus seats, we are willing to do an adoption and change management program for you guys. What this will include is virtual delivery of Microsoft Teams workshops, which you can use for up to more than 1,000 users. And this will include the following. So this will have a Teams adoption workshop, which will include the best practices of using Teams and so forth. This will also include a calling workshop, so setting up on your calls and on your meetings. And also solution workshop will include on how to bring those other different apps like Kunal just showed into your team so you can work more effectively. We are also offering 10% off from our Jabra audio devices during this time, since we see a real need for working from home. I think a few people have mentioned that in our question, in our Q&A as well, asking what you can use for noise suppression. Jabra audio devices are pretty good for that. Moving on to those of you who don't have Teams yet. So I think you would have learned a lot today. So we have fantastic news from Microsoft is that a Microsoft Teams trial license is available to use for 6 months. And again, if you have 150 plus users, we can provide the implementation FOC for you guys. Along with that, we will also include 3 remote adoption sessions, essentially to help you get started on working with Teams and how you can effectively start using it very fast. Again, we extend the same offer of 10% off from our Jabra audio device range as well. So with that, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you all have learned something useful today, and we will be moving on to the question and answer section of our webinar for now. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks, Sujan. And I think just for from a question and answers perspective, I'll just read out some of the questions as well, so that everyone in the entire training also has an overview of what these questions are. I think a couple of questions have already been answered, but again, I'll just reiterate. there was a question that was asked, can I add my local Active Directory authentication for Teams? Yes, of course. Your local on-premise Active Directory needs to be synchronized to Azure AD for you to leverage onto Office 365. The authentication can happen on the on-premise AD, and then we can have different authentication models on how we actually authenticate an end user from on-premise to Microsoft Teams. There were some questions around agile practices related applications. Now, if you go into the app stores, I think you can actually share, or you can actually see what are the agile applications that are available on the Teams platform. If you have some applications in mind, like Scrum Genius, like, maybe Clarizen, like Zoho, all those applications are actually available. There was also other applications as well that you can definitely leverage on. We can share that as well. Then there were other questions that been asked around low bandwidth environment. Yes, so Teams will automatically adopt. We also announced on the 3rd anniversary of Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, by the way, is now 3 years old. And I'm sorry, I didn't turn on my camera. So Microsoft Teams is now 3 months old, and we announced a low bandwidth codec that actually uses just 7 kbps as bandwidth. So that is coming out as well. That will be rolled out. So that will be pretty much for low bandwidth environment where we have 3G networks and stuff like that. Then there were other questions around can you guys share? Yeah, we will share this. We will provide you. Yeah, so right now, yeah, so there's another question around the way Microsoft Teams actually displays the screen when it comes to 2x2 or 3x3 and stuff like that. So right now, Microsoft, you can see 4 windows. We are improving drastically on this, and this should be coming out pretty soon when you'll have 3x3 or 4x3 video layout on the Microsoft Teams client. Okay, and then there were questions around what is the app you're using for HR people. So this application, it's pretty much a standard SharePoint site. So if you look at a SharePoint site, your HR teams, if they are trying to store everything in a single repository, the traditional way of doing things were to create a SharePoint site and embed or add users, then share information from that SharePoint site to multiple people around. And you had to give permissions to everyone who were trying to access that SharePoint site. So it was quite troublesome. So what we did was we packaged and bundled together the SharePoint site. We bundled it into an app template that is provided by Microsoft, published it on Microsoft Teams using the App Studio component, and then created message extensions, bots, connectors, and stuff like that with that. So that's what we're using. Now, if you really want to make sure it's more automated, you can also integrate Flow. You can also, use Microsoft Flow or Power Automate, as we call it, and other applications as well. We'll be happy to have a deeper discussion with you around this, because this is something that really requires a lot of planning when you're actually bringing in your application into Teams. So we'll be happy to do that. Then the live event scenario, yes, the public event has to be enabled by the backend in the admin center. So if you choose the admin center drop-down option to everyone, you will get that ability to actually use that as a live event. How many chat heads available? Again, I think I've answered this question. Right now it's 4, but we are going to soon have a 3x3 and a 4x3 video layout as well. I can't seem to reply to Teams messages, but I can. Yeah. So again, I think what you're asking is the reply functionality right now. So right now, the reply functionality, when you swipe right on your mobile phone, you get that. That is going to be, that's currently not available on desktop, but is definitely in the action items for us to release that on the desktop as well. All right. So keep the questions coming. If there is anything that we can help you with, we will be available for another 6 minutes. And if there are questions, I can read it out for everyone's benefit. And then you can anyways reach out to Zillion team to make sure that they can help you in their journey of getting onboarded and getting to use Microsoft Teams in the right way.
Right. Thanks again, Kunal. I just have one last thing I forgot to add earlier is that Zillion can also help all of you configure the crisis communication app that is part of what we're offering along with those offers to all of our customers. And also, guys, don't worry, we will be sending out a follow-up email with links to all of what we have discussed today and how you can reach out to our staff on how we can help you with everything we've discussed today, including implementing teams or even the remote adoption workshops and things like that. So you open the more questions again. So we will be available for the next few minutes, like Kunal mentioned, to take any question right now.
So I think there's another question, John, that I'll take. The question is that the conversation. Oh, it's already answered. Okay, cool. So I think the question is the chat option is retiring from co-authoring. In that case, how does the conversation works in future? So you already have a conversation tab that is going to be embedded in the Microsoft Teams world as well. So you can definitely use that as an option to have a live conversation while you're co-authoring or co-editing the document. The recording will be shared after this call, so we'll be we will have Zillion reach out to you guys on how you can actually use Teams and provide you with some of the important documents and links that can actually help you to have a conversation within your organization to have a remote to have an enhanced remote productivity. So yeah, all of this will be coming out. Yeah. All right. All right. There any other questions that are coming in? We'll be happy to take questions again. Again, we are left with 6 minutes, so keep the questions coming. And then probably what we can do is you can always reach out to Zillion, reach out to the partner, and we have a meeting scheduled within a private channel. So for this right now, I'll have to check and get back to you around the private channels because there were some recent announcements around this. So I think if you could leave us with your contact details, we can definitely come back to you to provide you with the updated information. I don't have an answer on top of my head. I think I'll just share my screen again and just go live one more time to actually see if we can actually create private. So I created a private channel right now, and I do get an ability to actually organize a meeting within the private channel itself. Now, I can't really schedule a meeting for now. I can just create a Meet Now meeting within the private channel. So that can be done. And you can definitely have a Meet Now meeting with the private channels. The members of the channels in this scenario will be either me or Megan, who's our favorite demo character. So yeah, so you can have a Meet Now in the private channels. So you get a private a lock here, which depicts it's a private channel, of course, and then you can have a Meet Now right from here. So that can be done. Hope that answers your question. Some user screen sharing comes as blank. I am not too sure if I have heard about this, that when you are sharing a screen, it comes as blank. So no, I haven't heard about this issue, because whatever we've tested and whatever we've been doing for the past so many days is sharing screen, and it never comes blank. It's always with the content. So I don't think so it's happening in that way. Yeah, so another question, how to share the SharePoint list data in Teams. So we do have another application. So if you look at the applications that are provided by Microsoft, a SharePoint list is another free, ready to use application for your organization that actually brings out the entire metadata list of SharePoint and embeds that into a team. Whenever you're sharing any file within your team, it uses the SharePoint site of that specific team in which you're sharing. So it gets stored over there, and you have an option to go under the file section, as mentioned by Kanchika, to see the list of all those files. Yes, so Teams sessions are encrypted. We can definitely go on a deeper dive session, keeping time into consideration. I can't really cover that in 2 minutes, but definitely if you really want to know on how we encrypt the traffic, I would be happy to do that session with you. And I'm sure ZILLIOne can do that as well, around how we encrypt the traffic end to end when it comes to going over the internet or going within from one network to another. So we can definitely have a deeper conversation around this. All right. So are you talking, so in this specific scenario, so when we create Teams meetings using channels, members do not get invitation and it is not visible on respective members' calendars. So this is something that we can definitely look into. And in fact, I will just do that right now. And if you do a schedule a meeting, and if you do a schedule meeting from the Meet Now option within the team, it will make sure that it gets gets shown in the calendar for what you're doing. Because I just did that, and I'm testing it out as we're speaking. And definitely, if it is every weekday, every Monday, or a daily meeting or a weekly meeting, you have that option to set it up in a scheduling meeting. Once you set that up, and once you send that over, the person who's going to get that, and the person who is going to who's actually organizing, gets that all displayed right on the admin center. So I think I can quickly, in fact, show you as well. Just give me a minute. Yeah. So if you look at this meeting that we've created, so I just went into the Teams and I just created this meeting right here. So in this specific meeting, the member that I've asked is Megan, and Megan should get this invitation in her calendar, because I, as the organizer, user gets the invitation in my calendar as well, which is synchronized with my Exchange. So this is my meeting invite. It's still setting up because it's a demo day and it takes some time. But realistically, this should be displayed, on your calendar as well. If it's not, then definitely there's something that we need to check, and we can definitely, have another conversation with you on how to do that. All right. So I think we've gone past the time of the session. Please keep your questions coming. We'll be happy to address your questions. Sujan, do you want to add anything towards the end?
No, Kunal, I think you have covered most of the things. I think the only thing I will again from all the attendees is thank you very much for joining us today and for all of your questions. And of course, those of you who have already reached out to us, please reach out to us if you have any further questions, and we will be able to answer them even after this webinar. And we will be sending out a follow-up email as well with all the content that we have spoken about. So that's it from my end, Kunal. If you have anything else,
Yep, absolutely.
We can.
Yep, absolutely. I think there's a question. Skype for Business, is it going to be obsolete? Yes, Skype for Business Online is going to be obsolete in June 2021. Skype for Business on-premise still remains. Link is already end of support, I guess. So the only productivity tool that is actually coming out from Microsoft is Microsoft Teams. So starting last year, if you sign up for an Office 365 tenant, the only productivity tool that you get is Microsoft Teams. There is no more Skype for Business in a new sign-in of Microsoft Office 365. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. It was great spending time with you guys. We'll be happy to take your questions offline as well. Thank you, and wish you all the best. Stay safe and stay home. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.